Good evening, students. I hope you're all doing great. So I am already seeing a lot of wishes on the chat. Thank you, Hitesh. Good evening, Almas, Ayush, Ankit, Surabhi. Good evening. Hope you're enjoying all the live sessions conducted by Board of Studies. Hope my voice, video and screen sharing, everything is fine for you. Yeah. So today we'll continue with the day 2 from chapter number 4, e-commerce, m-commerce and emerging technologies. I do remember that in day 1, we left with architecture of networked systems. I intentionally don't want to rush on the topic because it's an important topic from the examination perspective as well. So if you have any questions on day 1, feel free to drop in. At the same time, even as in the last class, I forgot to mention, students, if any of your doubts is not clarified during the class, see, we do have a time limitation where we need to cover the syllabus as well as the questions. And I get a lot of queries as it's a bit of technological subject. So for any limitation per se, if I am not able to answer any of your queries, feel free to drop your queries to eis-inter@ici.in. And also share your feedback, any improvements or any additional things you're expecting from the session. So feel free to share for every day so that your doubts will get clarified. So this is the best advantage of attending live classes, right? Or else you could have attended all these sessions on YouTube. These are freely available. So try to make utilize of these live sessions. Yeah, there is a question from Tanvi. Please explain recurring payments made easy benefit of e-commerce to seller. See, especially that is given in the context of, let's say, any utility payments. If you need to make payments to the e-commerce vendors, see, e-commerce doesn't mean that always Amazon or a Flipkart, okay? Predominantly, to explain you, to make you understand in more realistic way, we have taken those as an example. So that doesn't mean that e-commerce means only Amazon or a Flipkart or a Snapdeal. Those are the companies. Any company who sell their product or service via internet becomes an e-commerce business for them. Okay, let's take an example of utility bill payments on electricity department. Previously, if you are supposed to pay manually the electrical utility bill payments, how you used to go? You need to go to the nearest the electricity department outlet and stand in the queue, pay in the cash, right? So there is a lot of time involved, and they need to employ their resources, means employees, and they need to properly collect the cash, handle the cash, hand it over to again to the head office or deposit in their bank accounts. So there are a lot of manual efforts are involved in case of manual the traditional business point of view. Whereas if the same now you see a lot of you will be coming up with the topic as well, UPI payments. So we are paying the electricity bill just with a click of button from your handset situated at your home at your convenience. So from the commerce, means from the electricity department perspective, how easily they are getting all these payments now due to the digitization of their process. So this is what they mean. The recurring payments made very easy to the respective e-commerce vendors. I hope I have clarified, Tanvi. Sonika, e-distribution means electronically they're distributing their products and services, and you can track through the life cycle. Where is the transaction currently lying, whether it is dispatched or received by the customer. So we have taken an example of Amazon Kindle, where if you buy any item, so the distribution itself happen, e-distribution. Even if you see a lot of softwares, previously, if you need to buy a Windows operating system or a MS Office, they used to give in a physical CD, right? So you need to get that CD, put it in your desktop and install those softwares. Now, if you see, a lot of them are distributing online. Their product means all what they do. The moment you paid an amount for that MS Office, they will give you a link where using that link, you can download the software from their website. Okay. And you can install it. They will give you a key, activate it. So the product is with you. So you need not involve in any physical mode of dispatch of items. Okay. I hope I clarified your doubt, Sonika. Okay. So without further delay, let's get into the topics. So I'll be starting with day one topics, architecture of network systems. See, first and foremost, you need to understand all these three terms. What is meant by architecture? What is meant by networked systems? See, basically, we are reading this in the context of e-commerce. Okay. So in e-commerce businesses, if you want to do online transactions, the backend technology is this, the networked systems. So what is that networked system, how it is working, how it is applied to the e-commerce, we will read through it. So just remember, networked system means the technology behind the e-commerce platforms. Now coming to architecture. So basically, if we whenever we use architecture, we are talking about the design or the method, how these systems are designed so that the e-commerce businesses can be carried out is what we are going to understand. Basically, this concept is not only applicable e-commerce, it's applicable in networking systems. So I will introduce all the technical terms once we get into the topic. Basically, we are going to understand the design or the methodology they use for designing the e-commerce system. So this is what we are going to understand. So yeah, let's see here what the definition says. The way networks architectures are built in e-commerce platform. Okay, so we have seen in day one how when a transaction has been placed in e-commerce, right? User logs into the e-commerce platform, the website, and select the item. You add it to the cart. You make the payment. Finally, you will get the item. So this is what you and me understand so far about e-commerce. But on the back end, there is a lot of technology involved to make sure everything goes in the expected way. So one of the main thing is this network system. So let us understand now. Basically, there are two types of architectures involved. If you talk in real sense, there are four. One is single tier, two tier, three tier, n tier. But in your syllabus, you don't have single tier, you don't have n tier. We are going to understand only from the context of two tier and three tier. Actually, you hardly see any applications on using single tier nowadays. They are going away or fading away from the technological world. But there are still certain applications which works on single tier. So I will start an example from single tier to make you understand what is meant by two tier and three tier. Okay. Now, so from your syllabus perspective, we need to understand what is meant by two tier architecture and what is meant by three tier architecture. Now, let us take an example to understand this. Let's say you have a desktop with you. Okay. Now, you have installed MS Office software because maybe your principal or as part of your study, you need to prepare some presentation or could be some document or you need to work on some Excel sheet, assume as an example. So first and foremost, what you need a machine or a computer on which you will be installing the MS Office software. You are installing physically on that machine. Now, so you have Word document, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Word, Excel, PowerPoint. There are a lot of other applications or modules also can be available. Microsoft Outlook, Visual Basic, couple of projects, all those things you can buy. So since we are all familiar with Word, Excel and PowerPoint applications, just assume that now once you install that application, those are available now. Let's say I'm going to ask a couple of questions, students, on this. Please follow this example carefully. Now you prepared a Word document. Let's say what are all the key points you learned in our day one class. You prepared a Word document and saved it. Okay. So far clear with the example, what we have done, you installed MS Office application or a software on your machine, and out of that, one of the module or one of the application you used is Microsoft Word. In that Word document, you opened, you noted down some of the key important topics or key important questions from this chapter and saved the document for future reference. So this is what you have done. Now, my first question, let's say this is you. Where is the software installed here? Can you tell me where is the software installed? My first question. I'm going to ask a couple of questions so that we will understand how the architecture means all this 2-tier and 3-tier architecture. Mansha, you will understand once we discuss the architecture part, whether it's a hardware or a software. It's a combination basically. It includes both. It talks about both, how you are separating it. So my first question, where is the software installed? So it is installed. Yeah, Tanvi, Himanshu, and Ankit all have given the right answers. It is installed on your desktop. That means locally you installed. Okay, first thing, locally installed. Now, the second question, when you install this software, let's say the total storage capacity of this software is 500 MB or maybe 1 GB. This entire software size is 1 GB. When you install this software on your machine, this 1 GB, where it have been used, means is it from your local machine or it doesn't even take that 1 GB at all? The size of that application is 1 GB. So from where it consumed that storage. So tell me from where the storage have been consumed. My second question from the storage perspective. Students, bit fast. Okay. Pooja, it's not RAM or ROM. Basically, all these applications are installed on your hard disk. Secondary storage. RAM or ROM functionality is a bit different. So it will be the storage is consumed from your local machine. The third point, is it accessible by your friend who is there some for like from his home? Can he access this MS Office software which is installed on your machine? So please answer whether your friend can access or can use this MS Office application which is installed on your machine. Correct. Many of the students have given right answer, means to my previous question, it is consumed on the hard disk, it is installed on the hard disk. Correct. So it consumed from that, from your machine itself. So Himanshu has already given an answer, whether your friend can access this MS Office application which is installed on your machine. So the answer is no. Okay. Now, my next question, you installed an application, okay? From where you are accessing that software, like say you need to create MS, you want to use that MS Office, especially the old application. From where you are seeing that screen, from where you are seeing that screen, that MS Office, sorry, especially this old application, from where you are seeing it. So you are seeing it from your local machine. Okay, that screen is from your local machine. Almost how everyone can access, if it is installed on your machine, your friend is staying from not in your locality or not in your home. If he want to access MS Office which is installed on your desktop, he can't access it. Vinay, I'll come back to that. That's called remote desktops, that virtualization concept. We'll come back to that. Raghavan, he can do so if he hacked it. Okay. Yeah. So you are seeing that application from your screen. Now, the last question, once you prepare that MS Office, that Word document, when you save that file, where it is being stored? On your local machine. Right? So if you sum it up, the entire application is installed locally. Okay, entire software is installed locally. The memory has been consumed locally, and you are working on your desktop, and nobody can access other than means nobody can access. I mean, from other systems they can't access this. If they get access to your system, they can definitely access the application. What I'm saying, somebody who is sitting somewhere away, not from your location, and don't have access to your system, they can't access it, right? So I think this, you understand the current scenario. Okay, now let us see what is the need which made to get into this 2-tier architecture or a 3-tier architecture. Okay, let's say I will take an example of a railway booking system for that matter. So how many of you are booking? See, again, the only difference, you need to go one step backwards, because nowadays everything you can do from your handheld device by sitting at your home. But if you go a couple of years before, if you want to book a railway ticket, even now you can do it. But most of our generation mostly use the mobile applications to book the railway tickets. Now, before the introduction of all these apps, you need to go to the nearest railway station where you have the reservation counter. Okay, where one employee will be sitting there in the counter. He will be accessing certain system where you will be asking, sir, I need a ticket on so and so date from one location to another location, and these are all the passengers list. So you need to fill this form. You will hand it over to that ticket counter or ticket person, and he will log into his system. He will check for that train for that day and for the number of seats they were requesting, whether the seats are available or not. And then he will, if the tickets or seats are available, he will enter all the passenger details. He will confirm the ticket and will give you a physical copy of the ticket, right? At the same time, let's assume some of your friend is there in a different city or a different state or a different place. He also want to book tickets for the same train. So he would have reached to the nearest railway station counter. Even that person logs into the system. He will check this ticket availability. If it is available, he will be booking it. Now, if you consider these two scenarios, how the railway counter team is able to understand whether the tickets are available or not, and especially when they are doing parallelly, the information should be updated in realistic way. I mean to say, let's assume this is place 1, this is place 2. He will be checking the availability of seats. He will also be checking the availability of seats. So where do you think the data, means that ticket availability data, is stored? See, if you apply, if you go back to my MS Office example, if your friend wants to use that MS Word, the software has to be installed on his machine as well, right? Or else he can't use it. Whereas in this example, if he want to see the data, okay, I'm talking about data here, from where they can access, if all the data, if I keep everything in P1 location, okay, then if your friend from P2 location wants to book, how can he connect to this machine, right? If that is the case, visualize from the entire country how many railway counters will be there. We can't expect everybody connect to this station counter, right? So what they have done, they kept a centralized data server. It's called server. Okay, server is nothing but CPU. If you are not going in a technical terminology, for your basic understanding, whenever I use server, assume that it's a CPU. In chapter number 5, core banking systems, you will be discussing lot of various types of servers. Then you will understand much better. Even in chapter number 3, the topics, there will be certain topics which gives you an understanding about this technical terminology. But for now, just understand server means CPU. I believe you all can understand what is a CPU means. So here, the data is residing in a central location. So what happens? All these machines, all the desktops, what they have, are connected to the centralized repository. Okay, assume that you have a P3, a different location. So all of them access the data from one location. So here, if I maintain for so and so train, total availability is 100. Let's say whoever comes first. So if P1 location first booked 5 tickets, it will be reduced here and it will show 95 is the availability. If P2 comes and books remaining 10 tickets, let's say, now it shows 85. If P3 comes later, he will also book some one ticket, it will become 84. So whoever is accessing the data, they all access from the central location. So what is the advantage here? This maintenance of data, you can maintain at one location and all others can access. Okay, means if the same MS Office application is installed, let's assume if it is installed on a server and it allows to use by everybody, how they are connecting? Through internet. Okay, just assume that they are connecting through internet. They all connect to that server via internet. So security mechanisms, everything will be taken care. So they all can use the same application and get the things done. This is called client server technology. Okay, P1, P2, P3 in this example, all the machines, what they are holding here called clients. Okay, the terminology. This is called server. So all the clients are connected to the server to process the data, to access the data, and to do the required jobs. So are you understanding the client server technology? If you understand this client server technology, then it is easy for you to understand what is meant by 2-tier and 3-tier. Correct. Yeah, of course, I agree. A lot of students are already given answers. So these data have been stored centrally. That makes them to be able to access. Okay, but how is that possible? They built this. Either it could be a 2-tier architecture or a 3-tier architecture. That I'm not sure what is the architecture railways are using, but for sure either it will be a 2-tier or a 3-tier architecture. Most probably all the latest applications are using 3-tier architecture. So students, have you understand the client server architecture? Then I can go a little further. This fundamental conceptual understanding is needed for you to understand the 2-tier and 3-tier architecture. Hence, that's why I would like to get a confirmation whether you guys are able to follow up or not. Okay, anyway, it's taking time to get refreshed. Fine. So as you understand what is meant by a client server architecture, now let me introduce you the 2-tier and 3-tier architecture. Okay. So in 2-tier architecture, it has 2 layers or 2 tiers. One is a database tier, another one is a presentation tier. I will explain you the terms, but just understand 2-tier means you have only database and presentation tier. Students, if you recollect in chapter number 2, finance and accounting system, when I'm talking about front end and back end, we also have this diagram there. The same diagram is also there, but I especially mentioned in chapter number 4, we have a detailed topic or a session on this. Hence, I didn't spend much time to explain you, but I made you to remember this terminology: presentation tier, application tier, database tier. Okay. Now, so I will explain you these 3 terms. So once you understand these 3 terms, then understanding 2-tier and 3-tier will not take much time for you. Now, so just give me a minute. I will take this whiteboard. Take that MS Office example. So I'm not going to explain everything again. So you remember that example. This is called basically single tier application. Means everything is happening in only one machine. The software is installed on the same machine. You're accessing the application from this desktop. You are viewing that screen from the same system. And also all the logics. See, when you create a MS Office, you have a lot of functionality, right? You can save it with a file name, you can delete it, you can add text to it, you can add images to it. All those logics are also available on the same machine. Okay, the logics, everything. So this is the example of single tier. Now we talked about railways booking system. Somebody there in a different location and accessing the data from a central location. Okay, that's called client server. Now specifically we need to understand, as we know that what is meant by client server, what is meant by 2-tier architecture and 3-tier architecture. Now let us say, take this machine. Okay, now then it's a server. Server means, I told you, right, students, just assume that it's a CPU. Then another server. Here I am storing my data. All the data is stored in the last one. Talk about 1, 2, 3. When I say data, it depends on the context. If you talk from the e-commerce applications point of view, since we are in the e-commerce subject, let's say all the products information on Amazon or Flipkart website, what are all the products information, what you are seeing, the data relating to that product is stored in this server, serial number 3. Now, the moment from where you are logging into the e-commerce application, from your machine, okay, this is your machine, my desktop. Okay, in a day one, I opened the Amazon.in by logging into a browser. I opened a browser and there I typed www.amazon.in or flipkart.com, amazon.com, any e-commerce platform for that matter. So from where you are accessing it, from my desktop. So in between, there will be another server where the application or the respective software is installed. Okay. Now, how it works from the e-commerce context, we know that the data related to the products, availability, all those images. You remember, students, we used a term data library in the day one class. What is meant by a data library? It stores the digital images of text, images, videos, and everything. So all this kind of data is stored in this server, which is a database. Assume that it's a database. Now I'm talking about application. Application in simple terms, it's a software which helps you to do this online business, online purchase and sale. Then from where you are accessing, from the desktop. So the steps goes like this. So you log into your machine, you open the browser. It could be Internet Explorer, Mozilla, or Google Chrome, could be anything. And then you type www.amazon.in from your machine. The moment you type, the website will be loaded here and it will show all the products. But in the back end, what happens? The moment you type www.amazon.in, the request goes to this server, application server, and the request goes to database server, and it will send back that information from the database server. All the products related information is displayed and finally it will be shown on your machine. This is how in the back end it goes. So if you just apply, if you extend that MS Office example, let's say MS Office software is installed on this CPU. Whenever you create a document, that is saved here. Okay. So if you want that MS Office document once again, the request from your machine, the request goes here and it will ask the database server. Again, it will come back to here. This is how the entire process works in the e-commerce platforms. Now, if I break this example, if you see in my desktop, like when you are accessing Amazon.in, we all know that there are millions of products are there on Amazon, right? So to save that product information, is it being saved on your machine? My first question. Unlike in MS Office, means that single tier case, when you save the document, it is being saved on your machine. Whenever you are opening, if you want to reuse that Word document, it has to be available on your machine. When it is available on your machine, the storage is being consumed from your machine only. But in case of e-commerce platforms or Amazon example, all those products related information is not being stored on your machine. No data, means no storage space is being consumed. In such case, how you are able to access that information? From a central location. Remember that ticketing system. So how all the ticket counters who are spread across are able to access the data. Similarly, in the e-commerce platform also, you are accessing all that product related information from a central server, which is called a database server. Okay. So in 3-tier, we are talking about 3 terminology, right? Now I will give those 3 words to these 3. This is called presentation tier. The first one. The second one is application tier. Third one is database tier. So if you see from the functionality perspective, database tier means where the data is actually residing it. Under the application tier, all the business logic. So in this example, what do you mean by business logic? Let's say you are open the Amazon.in, right? When you are logging into your account by giving username and password, how system knows that you are entering a username and password. Now it has to go back and check with the database whether this username and password is correct or not. There should be some logic written, right? How your is the browser knows that, hey, there is a person called Uday. He's logging with your username and password. Now I have to allow him. In order to allow me, somewhere it has to go back and check whether the username and password I entered is correct or not. But first and foremost, how that intelligence will be given to the system? All the logics are written in this application software. There is a different software for this e-commerce where the business logics, especially even from the product availability, means whether the product is available or not, how many days it has to ship. The moment you click add to cart, it has to go and sit in your cart. All these logics, okay, for that program or a software is written in application server. Okay, this is what application tier. This application server is nothing but application tier where the business logics are written. And the last and least is presentation tier, is nothing but your screen where you are just accessing the data. It's a kind of a screen. Example, if you go to a movie theater, the movie is presented on a screen, right? Means on the screen, do you think that on the back of the screen there is a servers or all those stuff? No, there is a projector which projects the pictures or pixels on the screen. So screen doesn't have any intelligence. Basically, the projector have the intelligence. Similarly, in this example, your desktop doesn't have any intelligence. All it is doing is just display of information. The moment you click on Amazon.in, it goes, see, on the back end, it reaches to the web server. There are different kind of servers involved that you will understand in chapter number 5. But for now, just understand presentation tier is nothing but your screen where you see that information, nothing more than that. But the moment you want to log in, it has to validate. But how system knows that it has to validate? The logic has written in a software, which is sitting in the application tier. Now it has to go back and check the data. Where is the data is stored? Here. Now, if you just compare to this example, why we need to go with this kind of complicated architecture? In MS Office example, I'm installing on my machine. I'm accessing from my machine. I'm saving the document in my machine. Whenever I want, I can open from my machine. Why can't I use the same technology everywhere? Right? If you got this doubt, then none of the current technologies, none of the facilities you are enjoying now will not be possible. Got the students? Hiral, I think I forgot that word exactly. Let me see. Is it digital library or a data library? Let me components, right? Yeah, it's a digital library. Sorry, not data library. If I spelled as a data library, just sorry for that. It's a digital library where you will be storing in the e-commerce perspective, right? When we are talking about technology infrastructure, all the images, that product images, product videos, any other information relating to products in the digital form will be stored in the digital library. Again, it's just a word they have used, but again, in technical terms, all of them are stored on your server or a CPU and a hard disk. Simple. So any doubts, students, so far? Summary, correct, 100% correct. So the presentation tier is always a front end, whereas the application and database tiers are in the back end. See, when you log in, you don't even know that this is how the communication going back to Amazon servers and coming back to you. You don't even know the differentiation. Correct, Samriti. Adit, IRCTC app. Yes. See, again, to confirm back to you whether they use a 3-tier architecture, of course, most of the e-commerce platforms use 3-tier architecture, but just tell me whether you understood this concept of all these things: presentation tier, application tier, and database tier. If you understand this, then you are good with this concept. Yeah, I'll come back to that, Mukta. I haven't talked about the 2-tier and 3-tier. I introduced the 3 terms because if you see the difference between 2-tier and 3-tier in this diagram, only this application tier, this additional tier is not there here. That's the only difference. Okay. Apart from that, both are same. I will explain you how it works. So far it's clear, students? Okay. Now, so as you understand this concept of this 3 tiers, what is the functionality with an example? Now let's go back and understand the definitions of 2-tier architecture and 3-tier architecture. See, as you can see, the difference between 2-tier and 3-tier architecture, you don't have this additional application tier. Does it means that, see, we understand application tier does all the logics, business logics. So that means in 2-tier architecture, do you think without logics, the entire system works? Absolutely no. So how it used to happen in the presentation tier, in this itself, both presentation as well as application logic, everything happens in this place. Only in the database tier, the data is being stored. Okay. So everything has been kept in one tier. Whereas in 3-tier architecture, they segregated it. Presentation tier takes care of only the presentation of information. Application tier takes care of the business logic. Third one is database tier, where it stores the data. Let's say, I'll go back to this example. Sorry. Okay. So let's say in 2-tier architecture, you have a server, centralized server, where the data is stored, and there is one more person steering here. So they are accessing here and they are getting the data back to their machines. So in this case, if you see, this is the presentation as well as the logic is also means. When I say logic, the software is installed here. Assume that for your simple understanding sake, I'm using the terminology in loose way, but assume that the software, whatever the software you're going to talk about, this is installed here. Means all the business logics are happening here. And similarly, even here, it is a presentation layer as well as the application tier, where the logics also happen here. For any data, just to access the data, it goes and checks in the server and comes back. Okay. Only 2 tiers are there. This is presentation tier and database tier. In presentation tier, apart from the presentation, it also takes care of logic processing. Okay, this is 2 tier. Whereas in 3 tier, what they have done in that previous example, they brought one more layer into picture between the presentation and database layer. They separated the logical processing here. They shifted that logic processing to a different server. This is also a server. This is also a server. This is a client. Okay. That's the only difference. So they just separated the logical processing to a different server. Why it has done? We will understand when we are talking about the advantages or disadvantages. The moment you understand what are all the limitations of 2-tier architecture, then you will understand why you need a 3-tier architecture. But hope you are able to follow. First, we talked about single tier, where that MS Office application is installed. So what are the limitation? That can't be accessed by a person who is far from that place. And also, if that person also requires an MS Office, again, you have to install that MS Office application on his machine, right? So what is happening there? You have to spend extra money to procure that additional license. And whenever there is an upgrade or update you want to do, example, you bought MS Office 2010. Let's say there is an update given by Microsoft where you need to update from 2010 to 2016. So what you need to do, you have to update in your machine, as well as your friend also need to upgrade to from his machine. So any kind of maintenance activity, it has to be done in all machines. And also you have to procure for every machine separately. And assume if something happens to your machine, what happens? You're gone, means you can't use that application at all. Let's say you have two laptops in your home. On one laptop, you installed MS Office, but for some reason, that laptop is not working. So what happens? You procured it, you paid money to Microsoft, you got the MS Office software, but your machine has gone. So even though you have a different laptop, you can't install it there, right? So there is a limitation on the number of users that can be logged in and all those stuff. Nowadays, they have given some flexibility, but assume that you have that kind of situation where you can't install it in one more time. So you will be losing the entire functionality of it. So to avoid all these things, they brought that client server architecture where you can install that MS Office application at one location where multiple people can access it. See, maybe that MS Office is a wrong example in case of client server, but I'm just talking about, remember that railway ticketing system, even our the core banking systems. Now you can visit any branch of the bank in India and you can get to know what is your account balance, how is accessing. They're all connecting to a centralized server and accessing the information. That means they're using this client server architecture. Now within client server architecture, you have 2-tier and 3-tier. So I hope you understand the difference between 2-tier and 3-tier from the definition perspective. Let me go back to this. We already spent good amount of time. Let's quickly read through the definition. So in 2-tier architecture, client send request to the server and server responds to the request by fetching the data from it. So this is what we discussed, right? So here client means could be laptop or a desktop or even from a mobile application. You access the data. So where is the data stored? In a centralized server. Examples they have given, it could be a product data, price data, customer data, or any other data which is relevant to this transaction is being stored here. You will be requesting from your machine and the data is displayed, given back to here. So this is 2-tier architecture. Now, what are all the advantages here? Because of this high performance, as we talked about, as the data is stored in one central location, you can allow multiple employees or multiple people can connect to the same server and access the data and perform their job. So it increases the performance of the business and more users could interact. As we have seen, since the data is at one location, you can allow multiple users can use the data and perform their jobs. And simple structure, easy to set up and maintain. As I said earlier, implementing client server technology is very easy because it's very simple, not complicated, and easy to maintain perspective. Let's say if you want to do some maintenance on the database, you have to do it at one location. Okay, but all other people can connect. They need not worry about maintenance of this. If they're all accessing at different machines, if you want to maintain it anything, you have to do it here. You have to do it here. But now in the centralized place, that maintenance have been reduced a lot. So these are all the advantages of 2-tier architecture. Now, from the disadvantages point of view, it's a lower performance. On one side, they are saying higher performance as an advantage. Immediately, they are saying a contradiction, lower performance. Means it has a limitation. Let's say in this architecture, the number of clients, client 1, client 2, client 3, they have a limitation, maybe up to 100 users. Okay, this architecture will work. If you have some lakhs and lakhs of users are connecting, then this architecture is not the right. Example, in the e-commerce case, on a single day, on a single minute, there could be some thousands and lakhs of people are connecting to Amazon platform. In that case, going with a two-tier architecture will not help them. Why? Because there are a lot of people connecting to the same database, single server. And what happens? Your friend also want to see what are all the orders he placed, and like this, every user want to do certain activity or the other. So all the request goes to one server, which lowers the performance of the entire systems. So that is the reason. Especially this is true if the number of users are very heavy. If they are limited, let's say you have some 10 or 20 users, client two-tier architecture is enough for you. You don't need a three-tier architecture. Okay. Now, the another one is restricted flexibility and choice of DBMS. Why? Okay. DBMS means database management system. It's a software which allows you to store the data. If you remember, when I'm talking about the ERP, I showed one database where the data is stored, the invoice example, how that invoice is stored in the database, right? So that's called the DBMS management system, where the data have been stored. So in two-tier architecture, you have a limitation because all the business logics are in the client location, and there is a native language, means these two systems talk with one particular language. And if you want to change, example, the DBMS, you have various database services, like you can use Oracle database, you can use MySQL database. These are all the various vendors who provide the database services. Okay. So let's say you have one particular application, some software. So which says that if you want to access my database, you should use Oracle database only. You cannot use MySQL database because the logic has written in such a way, it can read only Oracle databases. It can't read a different database. So in two-tier architecture, that limitation will be there. So you can't use a different database as you wish. So these are all the limitations of two-tier architecture. Mukta, in application tier terminal, in the two-tier, the presentation tier only will does both the application tier work as well. That's what I said. Both presenting as well as that logical processing happens in the presentation tier. Whereas in three-tier, that is separated. Now, let us go to the three-tier architecture. As I said, you have presentation layer, application layer, database layer. So if you remember, means this is the only added layer in that. So that's why it became from 2 to 3 layers. So here all the logical processing happens here, whereas the database tier functionality is same, present tier functionality is also same. Some of the responsibilities of the presentation tier moved to application tier, all that logical processing. Okay. Now, from the advantages point of view, just remember the limitations of two-tier architecture. So if the number of users are more, it reduces the performance because everybody tries to process lot of transactions and lot of logical processing has to happen. So it burdens the system. Whereas in three-tier architecture, as you can see here, some of the responsibilities, as it is taken care by intermediary person, the burden on this database server reduces, right? So let's say you have one person connected here, one person connected here, one person connected here. So again, the application, you might ask, sir, previously, if the application tier is not there, all of them are used to connect to the database tier. Now, even here also, all are connecting to application tier. So even application tier would have gone for a toss, right? So it would have burden. But the advantage is here, you can maintain multiple application servers. Okay. It's not that, as in the diagram, I have showed one physical server for diagrammatic purposes, but you can extend here and then all the data can be connected. You can process different kinds of applications to a single database server. So this gives a flexibility to manage the higher load. And also from the advantages perspective, clear separation of user interface from application. As you can see, all the logical processing happens here, whereas from the application presentation tier, all we do is just logging into it. There is no processing happens in the presentation tier. And dynamic load balancing. That means if any of the server is becoming busy with continuous requests, automatically it can move the data load to a different server. So that kind of flexibility is available in three-tier architecture. And change management also become easy. As I said, let's say if you want to update that software or a logic, okay, you have to do it in central location. Previously, the logic, business logic is there in the two-tier architecture where it is there in the presentation tier, right? So the logic has to be updated here, here, here. All they are connected to the database. Okay. The logic is residing here. So you have to ensure that the logic has been, let's assume there is a business need where you need to update your logic. So you need to update the logic in the presentation tier, which is in number. Whereas now if you see all the same clients, the logic is in one location and the data is in one location. So if you want to update the logic, all you need to do is update in one location, right? You need not do here, you need not do here, because these are just dumb terminals. All this is a screen. Just remember that movie screen. Movie screen doesn't have the knowledge or any technology. It's just a piece of cloth where the projector puts the data on the screen, similar to that. So these are the screens, just dumb screens where it displays the information. But whereas the application logic, all the business logic is sitting here. If I want to update that logic, I can do it here. So from the change management is an advantage in three-tier architecture. So I hope you understand what all the advantages of three-tier. Now, so do you think so far we talked about two-tier advantages and limitations? To avoid, to come up, to bypass the limitations of two-tier, we said three-tier is the good option. So now, does it mean three-tier is the best? Of course, no. It also has certain limitations. So what are those? It increases the need for traffic management and server load balancing. See, if you see here, these are the connected points. On one side, what we are saying, whenever there is a heavy load on one server, automatically it can shift that processing to a different server. But in order to do that, there should be a traffic management, means some additional activities need to be done. Okay. So the same thing on one side, you say an advantage, but to derive this advantage, your additional work also getting increased. So increase the need for a traffic management and server load balancing. So that's what you say as a disadvantage. Now, another thing is the tools are very complex and relatively immature. So to manage this three-tier architecture, what are all the tools, means softwares you use, they are not that mature enough. It has to be evolved further is what they're saying. And also from the maintenance perspective, you don't have sufficient tools to manage this architecture. Now, you might have a doubt, sir, if it has a limitations, why still this three-tier architecture is predominantly used nowadays? I agree. To avoid these limitations, maybe a newer technology will come into picture. But right now, this technology also has certain limitations just for the conceptual sake. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Just please thank for notifying it. Yeah, it's the slide title should be advantages and disadvantages of three-tier architecture. Okay, so this is about two-tier and three-tier architecture. Now, the next question is, finally, why we are discussing all these things? We want to understand from e-commerce businesses point of view, what is the architecture used? It's three-tier architecture. So in the example I have given, Amazon.in, from your machine, it could be your mobile, desktop, laptop, those are all called presentation tiers. So the moment you type Amazon.in, whatever you are seeing on the screen is presentation tier. The moment you say you logged into your means that Amazon account, that login has to be validated. And whenever you are adding an item to your cart, that has to be added to your cart as if you are going to buy. So all those logics are written in application software, similar to that MS Office. And then where exactly this data is residing? In a database tier where the data is actually being stored. So that is how in e-commerce applications, the three-tier architecture has been used. So they have just explained here. I believe you can recollect this chart that when we are discussing about how the transaction happens in traditional commerce versus e-commerce, this is the flow they have given. Okay. So this is the presentation tier where you log into the application. And in the application tier, all these logics happen when you're adding to the cart, payment made, order is confirmed. All those logics are written in the application tier. And finally, on the back end, the database tier where this data is being stored. So this is how they applied it. And the next topic is, if the same thing, if you do via mobile, it becomes m-commerce, nothing more than that. If you see m-commerce, the buying and selling of goods and services through wireless handheld devices such as cellular telephone or a personal digital assets. It's just a definition. What do you mean by m-commerce? If you do the same transactions from your mobile phone, it becomes m-commerce. That's the difference between e-commerce and m-commerce. Workflow diagram for e-commerce. As we already discussed, what is the flow? You remember that 7 steps. The same steps will be repeated. Like you will be logging into it. You will be searching for the product, add to the cart. So that 8 steps we discussed, right? That's the same thing for workflow. So this is all about architecture of networked systems. So just let me know, students, if you understand anything. If you have any doubt. Samriddhi, to your question, there is a question from Samriddhi. Can we assume 2-tier as an intranet and 3-tier as internet? That might not be the right parlance to say. We need to understand what is the technology behind it. See, even intranet applications can also have that 3-tier architecture. That doesn't mean that they always follow 2-tier architecture. Yeah, there is a question from Tanvi Agarwal. If we use multiple application tiers, then also these multiple tiers going to put pressure on database tier. See, again, don't assume that as I showed one single CPU, there will be one CPU. There will be multiple CPUs, but just assume that if one person has to do the job, if there is one more person comes and takes care of your workload, how you become simplified. Similarly, from the processing also, there is one more hand. That's it. Simple. Don't complicate that. But in real time, application server doesn't mean that it is there will be only one CPU. It has a lot of server capacity. Depends on their transaction load, workload. They decide from the hardware requirements part. So, Jaspreet, there is a question from Jaspreet. In 2-tier, one layer does both the task presentation as well as logic, whereas in 3-tier, separate layers created for doing the same presentation logic. Correct. That's what I'm saying. So, that's why if you come back from 3-tier architecture to 2-tier architecture, it's easy to understand. So where every task is divided and given to a different person, assume that different person, whereas in 2-tier architecture, 2 of the tasks are done by one single person. That's it. Where you are reading domain logic, okay, fine. It's okay. It's just a quick assessment. We can move on to because we already close to 1 hour now. Let's go on to the today's topics for. Sorry. Okay. Hiral, I'll come back to you on the domain logic part. Okay. Just let me know from where you have seen this domain logic. Okay, you're talking about that choice of DBMS is what you are referring. So on day 1, we understand the e-commerce fundamentals of e-commerce, how it is different from traditional and e-commerce architecture and the components of e-commerce. So all the basics we have understand. Now on day 2, we're going to start with the risks and controls related to e-commerce. So we understand the advantages and disadvantages, but we also going to understand the risks and controls and certain guidelines. And finally, the digital payments, most important topic. Now, let's quickly go through the risks and controls. See, these topics are straightforward, doesn't require much explanation, unlike that architecture of networked systems, because it's self-readable and self-understandable. So I'll go a little fast in these areas. So what are all the risks in e-business environment? One is privacy or security. Of course, right? When you are exposing yourself to a public domain, your data might be issue. Somebody can hack that e-commerce website and take your login credentials or your personal information. So this is always applicable if you're exposing yourself to public domains. And quality issues. So this happens many times, right? You see certain products on online, but finally when the product reaches to you, it's not as good as you expected. So the original product sometimes differ from the ones which is displayed on the website or a platform. See, many times nowadays they are putting a disclaimer the color might not be accurate, the original product when you are seeing it, because whenever they're taking product pictures, they put a lot of lighting and lot of camera graphics they use to look that product more beautiful. But when you finally got that product, it won't be as good as sometimes. I'm not saying always, sometimes it can happen. So this could be a risk. Then delay in goods and hidden cost. See, if you see the traditional commerce, you remember one of the topic, delivery is instantaneous in traditional commerce. You go to shop, buy the product, it is there on your hand. But in e-commerce, there is a chance that it can get delayed. Sometimes hidden cost. You don't know that there are some additional costs. Especially, I can say, you can assume that example of buying from Amazon.com. Okay. Means from yours website, you're ordering an item, the cost could be $10 for that item. You need that item badly, so you don't find anywhere in locally. So you place an order in Amazon.com. The cost is $10. But the moment finally it comes to India, you don't know that the charges of customs or any clearing and all those stuff. So it might become $100 as well. We don't know. So there is a chance that sometimes hidden cost. But Amazon.com, all these established websites, they are showing now. So you are going to incur this $90 as the landing cost. But we are not discussing alone on Amazon platforms, right? We're going to talk in general. So there is a chance that sometimes some hidden costs are incurred. And especially to access this, you need access to the internet and lack of personal touch. So of course, you always go on, like you open there or browse for the items, place an order, and then finally get it. But if you go to a shopkeeper, you will ask, how are you by? How is your family? Means if you know that person in advance, if you don't know them, there also you simply go and buy it. But there is a human touch or emotional touch is there. In case of e-commerce, you don't see all these kind of things. And security and credit card issues. So this is always a risk. If you are going to share your credit card details to that platform, you might be in a doubt whether my card information have been misused, or there could be somebody who can hack my credit card information. So that risk is always there. From the infrastructure point of view, believe me, students, here infrastructure, they are not talking about the technical infrastructure. When I say technical, not computer servers or the data storage, they're talking about the roads and railways, means especially for the supply chain. As we talked about the advantage that the e-commerce business can start some part of the country, and customers from all over the country can access that website and place an order. But in order to ship that item to your location, the roads and railways, the transportation should be good enough so that you can get the product on time and in good shape. So if the roads and railways or the transportation is not great, then in those countries, the e-commerce business will not work. And problem of anonymity. Anonymity means you don't know who is that. Okay. So let's say if you go to a nearby shop, you know that person and he can't go away from there. Let's say you bought a product today. The moment you come back to home, there is an issue in the product. You can simply walk down to that shop and again ask, sir, I just bought from your shop and there is an issue in this product. Can you please check? But whereas in e-commerce, you don't know who is the person actually selling it. All you know is that website. You are placing an order, paying amount, whether that is a genuine or not. See, many fraudulent cases happens. People log into some websites and place an order, pays the amount, but actually they will not get any items at all. Okay, so that kind of issue is also there. Repudiation of contract. That means cancellation of orders. So not like, as I told you, when I'm talking about all these risks, don't visualize here Amazon or Flipkart because they are well established, they are good in the brand. So you don't find many of these issues in those. But as we're talking about in general, there are cases that on certain websites, you might place an order, but for some reason, they would have simply cancelled it. But in case of traditional commerce, you go and buy, that's it. If the item is not there, you will not be able to buy. If the item is there, you have bought. But on e-commerce, even though you placed an order, you paid an amount, there is always a chance that the orders get cancelled. So that is one of the risks. Lack of authenticity of the transaction. So if here authenticity means both the seller and the buyer don't know each other. They are just in virtual world. So you are logging in and buying an ad, you don't know who it is. So establishing that authenticity of that is difficult. And also the transaction you're performing on online, right? It doesn't necessarily means that you are the person who have done that transaction. So whoever got your access credentials, they can also do the transaction. So establishing authenticity is difficult in e-businesses. Data loss, theft, or a duplication. So you might have reading on newspapers many times. This bank or e-commerce company have been hacked. Lot of customer details have been lost. So this kind of things can always happen in e-commerce businesses. So these are simple to understand and plain definitions. So I hope you understand these points. Now let's quickly read through the rest of the things. Attacks from hackers. So this always be there when you're exposing yourself to the internet, the public domain. So there is always a chance that somebody can hack your systems, get your details, and pass the transactions. Then the next one is denial of service. What is meant by denial of service? It is important for you to understand. Again, you have, I think, in chapter number 3, detailed discussion on this. What is the denial of service? Let's say that e-commerce application. Okay. Remember now the 3-tier architecture: application server, database server, and presentation tier. So presentation tier is nothing but assume that it's you. Okay. Like you, there are so many people connects. There is a hacker here. What he does, intentionally, he keeps multiple requests to this. Technically, they can do. Okay. Keep on asking lot of information from this. What happens? This systems becomes busy. When you try to access the services, the server is already busy with a lot of requests. Unreasonably, they give. Intentionally, they send lot of requests. Okay. What happens? When you try to reach out to this for your services, this server is not at all available for you. I will give you in a layman language. Let's assume you are there. You want to call your home. You want to speak to your mom and dad for some reason. So there is a landline here or a mobile phone. Somebody keeps calling. What happens when you try to reach? The number becomes busy or unreachable, something like that, right? Similarly, like this activity is called denial of service. So they will not allow you to reach to this person. Similarly, even in e-commerce, if hackers intentionally, they keep sending lot of requests to this application server, so you can't access the server for your genuine need. So these kind of issues can happen in denial of service. Don't worry, this topic is there in your chapter number 3. Then you will understand different types of attacks. Then non-recognition of electronic transactions. In certain legislations, if you do those transactions electronically, recognition is a bit difficult to establish. Yes, I have done the transaction. See, the transaction will be there. To prove that it's you is a bit difficult. So you need to ensure that audit trials have been enabled. But yeah, that is how to control it is a different part. Lack of audit trials. Audit trial, I hope you understand that term. Basically, audit trial means it carries certain attributes. Who is the actual buyer, from whom they bought, all those what they bought, entire track or entire history of the transaction. So in certain e-commerce businesses, this enabling these audit trails, they won't maintain. Then it will be very difficult for you to establish saying that, hey, I am the person who performed this transaction. And then problem of piracy. On e-commerce, if you are selling something, somebody can download and then they keep sharing it. So I don't need to explain what is the issue of piracy on e-commerce part. Could be any copyright related product, be it soft copy of a book. If somebody allowed you to access classes videos, you might have shared the logins to your friend. Okay. So if anything happen, actually you paid it and he is getting free of cost, or you got material by paying money and you keep sharing the documents to so many people. So all these things are possible in e-commerce business. So these are the various risks in e-commerce. Okay, Mukta was saying that just like on result as the site server goes down. So kind of you can say basically when they're keeping up all these servers, they expect certain level of traffic to that server. If the server traffic goes beyond the expectation, then the servers will not work. It also has certain capacity, right? As the RAM and the CPU capacity. So they can only manage up to certain level of activities. So we have understood what are all the various risks in e-business. So does it mean that don't do e-business at all? No, for sure you need to do it, but these are all the controls you can establish. One is users. It should be a genuine user. Means you talked about the problem of anonymity. You don't know with whom you are actually transacting, right? So let's say establish the user registration process. Don't allow somebody coming to your platform buying an item without registering on your website. If you do that, establishing that authenticity is a bit difficult. So somehow you have to track certain attributes of that user, be it his email ID or a mobile number, whenever you are placing an order, so that tomorrow if something happens, you say that, hey, this is the means somebody used your email ID or a mobile number to place this order. At least you have something to say. Then sellers, buyers, and merchants. So as we talk about, the same anonymity applies to the sellers also, right? Ensure that you have a registered people and ensure that they are selling the genuine products and establishing the all the return policies, so that the trust can be established on your platform. And from the government point of view, the accounting and products legality, so that you should be taking care of it. Example, on these platforms, if somebody is selling some illegal products, some arm related ones or some drug related ones, so can we allow all those stuff? Because see, you can't say that I'm just a platform where anybody can come and sell whatever they want. You can't do that like that. So you always need to monitor it, what the people product, what kind of products people are selling, what kind of products people are buying it, so that if there are anything or illegal, you should ban them. Okay, be it supplier or a buyer point of view. First, you need to ban the suppliers so that nobody can buy it. And also network service providers, availability of network, which is very much important. The e-commerce will not work if you don't have a networks. When I say network, the internet, all those internal architecture of it. So you should have a proper backup system so that people can connect to your websites and process the orders without any issues. See, what all they're saying is ensure that you have a backup for everything in simple terms, be it network, technology service providers also, whatever the softwares you are using, ensure that they are available and always secure so that your client information will not be hacked. And logistics service providers from the delivery perspective as well. So ensure that you have multiple vendors or a proper delivery mechanisms so that the products can be reached to the customers on time or as committed, and on the payment gateways. So if you remember these students, do you able to recollect the last network, technology, logistics, payments? These are some of the components of e-commerce architecture. So ensure that each and every component is taken care by having reliable services or reliable agreements, proper SLAs with the respect to service providers, so that you can make your customers more happy by using your platform. So some additional controls that can be taken. So what they're saying, educate the participant about nature of risks. Hitesh, yes, absolutely. You can definitely explain. I have given the bulleted points. You can write in your own language, but you need to convey what exactly it means. Okay. Then additional controls. If you see here, educating the participant about nature of risks, the do's and don'ts for online payments by a bank. So as we have seen, try to educate your users as much as possible. Let's say if you see online banking or be it OLX platform, for that example, if you log into a OLX platform, they keep giving a lot of alerts to the users. So a lot of false sellers will be there, false buyers will be there. Don't share your OTPs on online banking platform. How they say whenever you are logging into it, don't share the OTP, don't share your credentials. How they notify the users? in a similar way on your e-commerce platform also put all the guidelines that to be followed by the user, so that they will not fall in the trap of any kind of hackers or losing their data. And also ensure that communication of organization policies to its customers. So all your policy related means documents. See, I doubt none of us will read these policy documents. Frankly speaking, if you're installing certain softwares or installing a mobile application on your machine, there will be a lot of terms and conditions. Did any of us read the terms and conditions before we install the application? No, because it is very lengthy and very technical in nature sometimes. So you are given least bothered. But students, believe me, there are certain applications available on mobile from antivirus companies. Example, Norton has an application. If you install application on your mobile, it will study all the app permissions for every app which is installed on your mobile. It will study that app functionality. Example, if that app is meant for a food ordering stuff, okay, so what are all the permissions you have given that app, whether the permissions are justifiable based on the functionality of the app. So let's say you have given a permission to that app to listen your sayings. If you have given a permission to your mic, okay, does it needed for a food restaurant app to listen to your mic? No, right? So you have to be very careful whenever you are giving permissions, right? Similarly, on e-commerce platform also, you need to have all policy guidelines. How privacy policy means how I am going to take care of safeguard your data, how I am going to keep it private so that nobody can access your data or your orders. Information, how I'm going to store that information. Shipping and billing policies means how many days you can return. You will have that return policy. Predominantly, we always read the return policy, right? Because if you want to return it back, whether they return it or not, if there means within how many days they will accept that return. And also refund policies, how they will refund back. Is it to the original payment method or to their wallet, own wallet? So all these kind of policies they should maintain on their website. So this what? So that the users who is using this platform will be knowing all these things and will take a better decision. Tomorrow the customer cannot come and say, hey, you didn't say that this item is not returnable. So with that assumption I bought, now you have to take this return. So that's the reason most of the e-commerce platform, they will very clearly write what is their return policy, whether this item is returnable or not. If it is returnable, within how many days I can return this. So all these things are form part of this policy guidelines. And also ensure that compliance with industry body standards. Example, if you're in the banking industry, let's see that if RBI has given any guidelines on that need to be followed on your internet banking platform. If you are an insurance company, if IRDA has given any guidelines that need to be followed on your platform. So in a specific way, respective body, if it exists, ensure that you are taken care of those standards or compliances. And also protect your e-commerce business from intrusion. Intrusion means unauthorized access. So as we're talking about viruses, so when you're exposing your domain to a public internet, all these kind of things can happen. So viruses, somebody can input some viruses onto your website, hackers, passwords, regular software updates, sensitive data, review of payment service provider contract. So all these things you need to take care so that gives a better security to your users. Like example, regular software updates. How on your mobile, Amazon app or a Flipkart keep giving lot of updates? Do you think they're just giving for the sake of adding features? No, they might have identified certain bugs in their app or a software. So you better update so that security issues will be taken care of it. So students, remember, always update the softwares or mobile applications on your devices, because don't think that the update will consume your memory space. But most importantly, the important thing is they would have fixed certain issues, especially on the security part. If you don't update it, sometimes the applications itself will not work, or the data might be issued. Your data might be at risk. So better to update all these softwares or applications as and when you got updates. And also ensure that review of payment service provider contract. That means on e-commerce platform, we talked about one of the component, right? Payment gateways. So you have review the contracts with them. So the means they facilitate the fund transfer between the customer and the e-commerce company, right? So ensure that you have a good contract with them. If there is any discrepancies, how they are going to solve, within how many days they will they will ensure that the funds are coming back to our accounts. So all the related terms and conditions, you keep reviewing it and ensure that that is in the best interest of the organization. So these are the different additional controls that can be taken. So if you see overall the risks and controls, these are very self-readable, so not that technical in nature. Some case studies which are given in your syllabus, return of mobile or a purchase of fake or interior products. In simple terms, one person, what he used to do, he keeps ordering mobiles, he's getting mobiles and he's returning it. So company taking it, because if he's returning as per the return policy, they have to take it. At one fine day, what they observed, this guy who is returning the mobile phones, he's replacing the original accessories inside of the mobile. So the delivery person, what he checks, whether the mobile is working fine or not, max to max he can check. Sometimes that he don't even on the mobile and check whether the mobile is working condition or not. He simply come, see the mobile, yes, mobile is there, matching with the image the company has given, he take it back, but he don't check on the back end, right? So that is what happening on the one of the case. So the control that can be implemented is, whenever somebody is returning it, before you refund the money to that person, ensure that that return item should go for inspection, whether that product is in genuine condition or not, everything is working fine or somebody has tampered. So these kind of controls you can implement and make sure that it has been inspected and finally comes to the store. So then you can refund the money. So there is another case is purchase of fake or inferior products online. That means low quality products. So this is what I'm saying. Ensure that you get a proper authentication of the supplier and the products he is selling, whether he is authorized to sell or not, what kind of products he is offering on the platform. Keep an eye on those products for all the suppliers, so that you will be given an assurance to your customers saying that all the products which are selling on my platform are genuine or original. It's not a reused. If somebody is selling reused, better to put as refurbished or reused product, so that the customer who is buying will also know that this product is not original, it's a reused product. So certain internal controls should be placed before you accept any vendors or all their items in the case 2, to ensure that they are not selling any fake or inferior products. So these case studies, again, you can go through from your syllabus as well. We already discussed what kind of controls can be built in these cases. Okay, students, any doubts so far? Modus operandi, I believe, means he keeps, I am not getting the terms. I'll come back to you that on that Muktavyas. There is an explanation for that modus operandi. I think collectively they're coming together and doing some false things. Okay, Sonika, she was asking the name of the security app. I don't remember exactly, but it's from Norton. One of the antivirus. See, you might have come across Kaspersky, different kind of antivirus, Quick Heal. So similarly, there is a antivirus product called Norton. It has some app. Okay, if you install it on your app, it analyzes all the mobile applications installed on your machine. Based on the app functionality, it will say, hey, you have given access to access your SMS, contacts, mic. So for this app functionality, I don't think you giving a permission to mic is a required one. So accordingly, you can take a decision whether this permission should be there or not. But the key point there, many of the applications will not allow you to deselect these permissions. So either they say yes or no. Ideally, they should give like this, like SMS, I will allow. Let's say call records, I will allow, but not to the mic. So if the app gives that option, it's good, but most of the apps will not give you. It asks you a blanket permission, or it will not install at all. So wherever possible, if you have that option, try to deselect that option, at least based on the product functionality or app functionality, you can limit it. Mukta Vyas, from where you are getting these bootleg products? Give me the context so that I can go through it. Maybe I can open that study material and then see if you come across from the study material. Yeah. So this is about the risks and controls in e-business environment, how you can safeguard it. So there is some continuation of this topic, cybersecurity risk considerations. So as we are discussing about risk, so there could be two types of risk. One risk could be a direct financial impact. That means you are losing money in it. The other is indirect operational impact. That means the loss is not here money. The loss in terms of leakage of customer information or a patent product recipes. So indirectly, eventually that will result in financial loss. But prima facie, let's say on your platform, somebody hacked your platform and taken all the customer sensitive information, be it the customer address, customer credit card information. Okay. You are not, means you didn't fall in any financial loss. Nobody thefted money from you or from your bank account. All he has taken is the customer information. So what happens there? Tomorrow, any new customer comes and buy on your platform. They simply say, hey, you are not safeguarding my data. So I don't even want to buy any of the items from your platform. So this is a indirect operational impact. On the operations, it is being impacted. So ultimately, if no customers are coming to you, you will not be gaining the revenue. That's the ultimate result of it, anything. Okay. But on the direct financial impact, let's say you are a banking industry. Somebody hacked your banking and siphoned off all the funds, taken that funds and transferred to their accounts. So here it's a direct financial impact. You lost the money. Recently in Hyderabad, there is one bank. I don't want to name it now, but you can check on the public domains. So there are certain hackers. They siphoned off some thousands of crores money by hacking into their applications. Okay. So this is called direct financial impact. Whereas the indirect operational impact, many times, be it all the social media platforms, be it Facebook, LinkedIn, many social media platforms will keep getting these kind of attacks. So the hackers will gain that customer's information and will sold the data in dark webs, okay, for some money. So again, on standards and auditing 315, it says specific risks to an entity's internal controls by IT. If any company is into this e-commerce business, so standard 315 gives some more points to take care of it. So reliance on systems or programs that are inaccurately processing inaccurate data, or both. So let's say you are dependent on certain systems. If those systems are processing inaccurately, means they're not doing the data processing properly, or the data itself is inaccurate, then if that kind of systems is what you are using, then on your systems or programs, the risk will not be there. So you need to focus, ensure that your applications are working fine and the data processed is accurate enough. Means how you validate, you need to put certain internal controls, additional controls to ensure that your systems are working fine. You remember, students, on the e-commerce ERP example, on the three-way match, let's say whether system is allowing me to book an invoice more than what I received. Okay. So if it is allowing me, that means it is inaccurately processing the data. Ideally, it should not allow me. I should pay to the supplier for what I have received, right? So that is inaccurately processing the data. Processing inaccurate data means, let's say I was supposed to book an invoice for X item, but even though if I give for Y item, it is accepting me. Okay. Ideally, I should give for, if I am referring to a purchase order, I should book the invoice for the purchase ordered items only. It should not allow me to invoice for something else when I'm referring a purchase order. So these kind of controls should be there. And unauthorized access to data. We talked about that role-based access controls, right? Ensure that those are created so that the access to data given to the persons on need-to-know basis, need-to-do basis. Unwanted access to IT personnel, and that which violates the segregation of duties. So apart from your regular business users, there are IT teams. Basically, many companies, this has been taken very lightly. The IT people, means the people who support the systems, they will have full access to the systems. They can access any information. They say that in the umbrella of we are the people who manages it, but still based on your role, the access should be there. Example, yes, if there is an issue, you are the person taking care of the system, but I won't give you an entry, data edit access or a data entry access, because that will be taken care by my business users. Why from IT department requires a edit or a entry data? You won't, as per your job role, you don't enter any data into in the ERP application, so I don't give. So check that if you have any unauthorized access to the IT personnel. Unauthorized changes to the data in the master files. You remember, students, I was talking about 4I concept, means two people has to review for any changes happening in the master data. So this is the counterpart. If to avoid any unauthorized changes in the master files, bring that 4I concept, so that when I say master data, remember the supplier data, item master, accounts master, all the different kinds of master data and non-master data. So ensure that no unauthorized changes can happen. How you can ensure that? That's what I'm linking those topics. So you read 4I concept, where somebody will do the modification. Let's say there is a required modification. Somebody, an accountant or a purchase department buyer will be doing it. The respective department manager should review those changes. If everything is fine, then only it should be updated in the system. Unauthorized changes to systems or programs. Similar to the data, if any modifications to the systems or programs, ensure that it has to be properly authenticated or approved. Failure to make necessary changes to systems or programs. See, these are all the specific risks. I'm combining both risks and controls here. If you are not updated your systems on time, that means there could be some security related issues or bugs in the system which is not fixed. So if you are using those systems, there is always a high risk. Even from the example of ERP applications, the respective ERP vendors on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, they keep checking if they found any issues in their applications, they will release patch. Once you get into you might have heard this word patches. Patches means they're like how in real time, what is the functionality of patch? There is a hole. Okay. You are putting a patch onto it so that the air will not be leaked. Similarly, even in the software, if there is any bug means some issue. Okay, somebody can exploit that issue and get into the system. So to avoid this, they keep releasing patches. So by using that patches, you can upgrade your system so that security wise it is taken care. Inappropriate manual intervention, as I already talked about here. So if you are not authorized to do any manual changes into the system flow, that is one of the risks. If you allow any kind of that inappropriate, means that is not allowed to do, but you entered an updated. Example, let's say discount to the customer. Okay, basically the discount percentage is fixed from the organization level, max to max. For any customer you can give 10%, but some of the employee from the sales department, he is trying to update this 10% to 20% because that other person is a relative. Okay, so you should not allow anybody. Ensure that controls are placed. Nobody can go beyond this 10%. Even to receive, means if somebody is changing the 10%, maybe it can go for approval to the next level of managers. If multiple people are reviewing it, it's very difficult to forge the system. And potential loss of data or inability to access data as required. So this is also one of the risks. See, basically these are some additional risks which can comes to an entity, especially by their IT. So this is what this standard talking about. So even the data can be lost, or it can make that somebody can't be able to access your data. So these are all the risks. Fine. So any doubts here? Yeah, violates SOD. SOD means Mukta, segregation of duties. As I said, you remember the example I have given. A person from HR department is trying to access the data of a salary, or from the payroll department. I'm really sorry. HR department guy, I think the example I have given, some purchase department guy is getting an access to the HR department data where he can see his colleagues' salaries. Is it basically needed as per his role? What should be the access given to the purchasing department person? He should be able to access purchase orders. He should be able to access the invoices max to max. He should be able to access the receipts. means I ordered this, how much I received. So to that level only I should give access. Okay. Segregation of duties. Based on that, I will give the access. So this person is supposed to perform these activities in the organization. So the access will also be given accordingly. That is called segregation of duties. Based on that, the access will be given. If somebody is having a different access, which is not as per his job role, that's called violation of segregation of duties. So a purchasing department guy having access to salaries is not expected. Why he should get an access to salary information? No. So that means it's a violation of SOD. Yeah. So it's 7:35 now. We'll take a break for 10 minutes and then we can resume for the rest of the topics. So we have a good amount of interesting topics here. Then finally, we'll move on to the guidelines and laws. So this is a quick topic that can be finished, and then we'll move on to the digital payments part. Okay. So we'll be back by 10 minutes sharp by 7:45, and we'll continue for the rest of the topics. Huh. Welcome back, students. I have seen a couple of questions here. Question from Harshita. OSI means Open System Interconnection. Basically, it's a very technical concept, but in a very layman language, it's a protocol or a standard to transmit the data from one place, means one sender to receiver. See, if I am talking to you, you are listening my words, right? But how the data has been understood and transmitted back via these networks is what the OSI controls. So it has 7 layers in it. Each layer does a certain job so that finally you are able to hear my voice. Similarly, on the networks also, when the data is been transmitted from one location to another location, it follows that it needs to follow certain standards so that the data can be received by the receiver. So that's what you can listen. Actually, it's a very deeper technical thing to understand what actually the OSI, how all the 7 layers can talk each other and transmit the data between of them. Okay, fine. So let's continue with levels through which the cyber breach can occur. See, so far we're talking about in couple of risks. Always when you expose your business to internet, there is always a chance of the cyber attacks. Could be by putting some viruses or a malwares or a denial of service attacks. These are all the various kind of attacks or risks a business can experience when they expose the business to the public domains like internet. So how it happens, to understand this concept is very easy. Let's assume that you have a home. Your home is there. You are keeping some valuable items in a lock, what do you call that, security box. You keep some important documents or a cash or jewelry. And your house has a compound wall. This is a compound wall. So if a thief has to come and take those items, what is the first thing he has to do? He has to first cross the boundary or compound wall. Then he comes to the door entrance. It could be a front door or a back door or a window. Some entrance he has to come in. Once he comes to that, he'll go to the specific room and finally get access to this secured items, be it jewelry, your important documents, or a liquid cash, whatever it is, right? Similarly, from the if somebody wants to attack from public domains, the first thing they do was, this perimeter network is nothing but your compound wall. In an organization, perimeter network. But in compound wall, you can see physically a wall with bricks, right? But in organization networks, the perimeter network is a boundary. Anybody wants to get into the company internet, company data, first they have to touch their perimeter network. Once they could able to break it, they can get into internet network. Finally, they can get into operating systems and then data. So just apply this to this example so that it's easy for you to understand. I will further explain this with an example of this diagram. If you see here, this is not there in your syllabus, means from your book. I just took from the internet to make you help you understand. Let's say all your company data is being stored here. Let's assume this is very critical, okay? Where only the company employees can access this data, critical data. See, for companies, the important thing is data, right? It could be customers' data, their financial data, or their copyright or patented data. So for them, data is wealth. So here, theft means somebody is thefting the data. It doesn't mean that somebody will come to the company and take cash or jewelry. So how they can come? Assume that you have everything here in this server. So first and foremost, somebody is this here, some malicious hacker. Okay. Of course, your system has to connect to the internet, public domains for various reasons. But what you can do, before giving access directly to this, ensure that you have all these firewalls. Firewall is nothing but, you assume that it's a compound of security gate. Okay. Basically, in technical terms, firewall means it's a kind of application which checks what is coming in, what is going out. It's a kind of security gate. How in physical world, there will be a security or a watchman who checks whether the person who is coming in is authorized or not. In the internet also, means on the networks also, there is an application by which is named as a firewall. What it does, all the incoming traffic, it will check whether the data or request is supposed to come to our premises or not. Similarly, when the data is going out, it will check whether the data is supposed to go out or not. So all those rules are defined in these firewalls. So it will keep inspecting it. So this is the first level of security guard, nothing but our compound wall. If somebody is coming, the first screening should happen here. If it passes through, then there are certain resources which are publicly. Example, here web server. Basically, here I will keep my application server or a data server where my critical data is stored. Whereas here, I will keep my web server. That means if somebody is accessing my website, the data is lying in the web server. Okay. I'm anyway giving access to the public. Okay. This I need not keep inside. Means in a much secured position, I need not keep it. So if you can go back to that house example, the jewelry or precious metal items you might keep in that lockbox. But if you have some artificial jewelry or some regular documents which doesn't have much importance, you can keep it in the hall as well, right? Whoever comes, they can come and check what is the loss. No issues. I'm anyway okay to show that information to outside public. So that information, I'll keep it here. So the first level here, even if somebody comes, this kind of data only they can access. Okay. Again, if somebody is also got access to these servers and trying to communicate internally, I will keep one more gate here. It's something like a door, house door or a windows. Okay. If somebody breaks into this, they finally get access to my critical data. Right? This is how the breach can happen. I hope you understand now the perimeter networks, internal networks, operating system, and application data with these examples. Now, let us see how to address these key cyber security risks in e-commerce. Right? Now we understand how a theft or how a risk can occur, but how can you avoid that? So one is having an existence of network diagram. See, network diagram means, again, I have taken from public domains. So all your internal IT, you should have a blueprint. Okay, how each system is connected to what, which systems are exposed to public domains, which systems are critical. All these things you should know in advance in the form of diagram, so that, let's say, from here, if somebody attacked the initial firewall, you will come to know, okay, these systems are at risk, but immediately you can cut the connection. Okay, you can cut it so that all these systems are safeguarded. So when you can do all those things, you should know the blueprint, how your systems are connected, so that to where the breach already happened, that place you can cut it wherever possible. Okay, so this network diagram helps you to understand the architecture of your networks. So existence of network diagram, so that you can cut that breakage. Then list of digital assets and responsible IT managers. So what are all the digital assets you have? Here the digital asset, again, most importantly, the data and who is responsible for what. So if anything happens, you should know to whom to reach or to whom to update. So that is more important information. And policy for usage of digital assets. So basically, you should also have a policy. Example, how you can use that company information. Your employees should be knowing it. See, sometimes it's not that always intentionally they will leak the information. Maybe unintentionally also something can happen. Let's say in one of my experience only I come across, one of the person unintentionally shared all their customer information to his friend without knowing it. There is no harm, but actually that other friend is working in a competitor company. What happens? The competitor knows all their customer details of his competitor, so he can approach that respective customer and offer a better price. So this what? So they don't, it's not necessarily that they will be doing intentionally. Sometimes it can happen. So you need to say clearly, you make them training that how you can use the company's resources or information, so that there will be less chances of risk. And if any kind of breaches happen, if you would have recorded that, you will be knowing it. What action means, if something happens previously, if you have recorded, hey, on so and so date, this is kind of breach happened on the day, these are all the steps we have taken, so that we have safeguarded. So if you have this record, if any such kind of instance happen, people can go back and check, okay, this is how we should protect now. So that is how it can help you. And periodical review by Chief Information Officer. on the company's digital assets and IT environment. So chief information officer, who is top in the organizational hierarchy, who is responsible for all these IT related departments. So he has to review all the digital assets and the IT environment, so that if somebody is reviewing it, if there are any issues, they'll be able to identify. That's all the purpose there. And they should also ensure the respective IT managers are adequately skilled or trained to safeguard the assets from cyber attacks. See, when you're expecting somebody to save you, first and foremost, you should know that whether they are means they have enough training, whether they know how to protect us, right? So let's say, as a public, we are dependent on police department. If police doesn't know how to safeguard public, do you think you can keep our lives in their hands? No, right? So that's the reason they goes with a rigorous training on various aspects of life, and then finally get a posting, so that they know how to safeguard the public, what is the law says, what is their roles and responsibilities. Similarly, in the IT organizations also, if you expect your employees to do carefully and to safeguard all your digital assets, they should be knowing it, how to safeguard it. Okay, they should know what is right, what is wrong, and accordingly, if something goes wrong, how to take care of it also, they should be knowing it. How you can ensure that they know all these things? Give proper trainings, keep training them, because once you get into the corporate sector, on every frequent basis, we need to do a lot of internal assessments, all the security related stuff, how the mails should be sent, how the mails should be, data should be shared, what kind of data you can share, all those security related trainings on every frequent, maybe on a yearly basis, certain organizations request their employees to attend. And the next point is existence of IT security policy circulated to all employees. As I said, you should distribute your policy in some way. It's not necessarily that physical copies, even via email or via the help of videos, so that your employees understand what is the security policy, what kind of data we can share, what kind of softwares you can install. Are you authorized to install any software from an external party? So all these guidelines you should distribute to your employees. And role-based access and periodical review, we already discussed. On need to know, need to do basis, give the access. Approval process before granting any access. If you're giving somebody a different access, it should be get it approved, so that somebody will review whether that person requires that access or not. And employee awareness programs, as I said, we will be getting frequent training programs to understand how the security can be taken care. And a couple of other things, use of firewalls and encryption. As I said, firewall is nothing but a software which actually checks the incoming and outgoing traffic, the data traffic, whether the data can come inside of the organization, go out of the organization. If you, I'm not sure how many of you experienced in your real life, in many corporates, that we are not authorized to send any mails to our personal emails. Example, if you are working in, let's say the company email ID is abc.com. If you are sending any to email @gmail.com, the firewalls will stop that email. It will not allow you to set. And not only firewall, the SMTP server, the email server level itself, you can configure it. I'm not going to allow any communications outside of my email domain. So these kind of restrictions can be placed so that the data will not go out of company boundaries. Review of baseline security configurations under any security standards. So example, ISO standards is what we call ISO 27000. So these are some security standards based on which whether you are adhering to those standards or not. See, if there is no standard, how you know that you are on par, you are doing well in your security per se? Like, there should be some benchmark to assess whether you are doing correct or not, or whether it needs to be improved or not. There are certain standards. So for security also, there are certain ISO standards that says that these are all the guidelines that need to be followed to ensure that your organization is secure, ensure that you are following those guidelines. So two-factor authentication for remote logins. Example, now I'm working for a company from my home. So if I'm accessing to their data, I have to give two logins. One is I'll be entering my username and password, and I have to authenticate through a VPN. So there is a separate one more layer of authentication where I'll get on my mobile one alert. Once I enter my password, I'll get a notification on my mobile. If I say yes, then only I will be given access to the computer, my company's resources, be it the applications or data. So it's called two-factor authentication. In simple terms, even when you're logging into your internet banking, apart from giving username and password, banks like SBI, they will also ask you to enter one-time password. So that is also an example of two-factor authentication. So if you have these kind of things, it's very hard to penetrate the system. So somebody might have get your username and password, but they can't get your mobile phone, right? If they got both, then nobody can control, but at least something is better than nothing like that. So vulnerability scans, penetration testing performed by the company and any findings noted. Vulnerability scan is nothing but, let's say, how you scan using antivirus. See, there won't be any virus, but you keep scanning it, the system, right, to check if there are any issues in the system. Similarly, organizations also do the vulnerability scans to identify any vulnerabilities. When I say vulnerability, weaknesses in their systems. If they identify any weaknesses, they can fix it. Backup frequency and efficiency. We keep talking about data can be lost or data can be hacked by somebody, right? So maintain the backups and also timely take the backups. So if you're doing once in a while, if something happens in between, then it's a loss, right? If you're a very critical organization, every transaction, if it is important for you, you need to have a continuous backing up mechanisms so that one transaction is registered on your production server, simultaneously it is registered on the backup server as well. There are different mechanisms to do that. Okay, so these are all the guidelines you need to follow to safeguard from the cyber security risks. Network diagram. Fine, these are all okay. Okay, let's quickly take this assessment to see how far you are able to follow. Pooja, see, servers doesn't have that intelligence. To do that, you have separate applications like firewalls, where their job is to monitor that. Like as if you are asking, if somebody is coming and taking out something from your house, can't you protect by yourselves? Why you need a police? See, you do your best, but sometimes you need an external party support, right? Similarly, organizations also, all those user logins, two-factor authentication, all those measures have been taken care. But if somebody still comes and tries to get it, so you are filtering it at various levels. You are building more security layers. So students, please share your responses to this assessment. First question, e-commerce organizations are required to comply with and adhere to the rules outlined by the law of land in India, which has been releasing these standards from time to time. Very good question. Let's see the answers. For e-commerce, it's Reserve Bank of India, not Ministry of Corporate Affairs. For cyber breach, it's perimeter. So for question number 1C, answer question number 2C. Hitesh has given right answer. Jasprit, RBI, correct for the first question. Afreen, both questions are right. Hiral Parekh, yes, first question is C. Good. Akshanil, Ministry of Corporate Affairs is responsible only for companies. If that entity is in a different shape, they won't get into picture, right? So Reserve Bank of India for e-commerce business. Now, so far we're talking about risks, controls, what kind of measures you can take. So we understand from the risks part how you can take measures. Now, quickly run through the guidelines and laws applicable for e-commerce businesses. We have a next important topic on digital payments. So let me quickly go through these guidelines as well. Again, this concept is kind of a simple, self-explanatory. It doesn't have any technical details to understand. So we can quickly wrap it up. So guidelines for e-commerce. So when you're starting up your business, so far we were talking about a lot of limitations, right? How you can make better experience for the e-commerce business. Billing. So ensure that you have a standard format of the bill and kind of what kind of details that need to be included. So again, all these guidelines to be given to the e-commerce vendors to have a better experience and better controls. So you maintain a standardization of the bill and try to include as accuracy of information as possible on the bill. means who is the customer. If you, when you place any order on Amazon or a Flipkart, you would be getting invoice, right? So they are talking about that invoice format and contents to be included, and product guarantee and warranty. So try to display those guarantee or warranty policies online so that whoever procuring the items from your website, they know in advance, okay, this product qualifies for 1 year manufacturer warranty or a 6 months manufacturer warranty, all this information. From the shipping part, say that you're delivering, let's say if you say 1 week delivery or a 1 day delivery or a 10 minutes delivery, save somewhere on your website, this is my shipment policy and how frequency, how we packing it. If you see nowadays, a lot of companies are removing the plastic packaging because to save the earth. So they can claim that in their shipping policy that we will be using the earthen materials like paper they are using. Like I see from Myntra. So if you order any item from Myntra, they won't deliver it in a plastic cover. Nowadays, they are delivering most of the thing is a paper cover so that that paper can be recycled. Delivery mode, how usually you deliver it, when and where, how you will be delivering it, to which locations you can deliver. All this validation should be happened. Means, example, you place an order on an e-commerce platform. Later, you came to know that they will not be able to deliver. Especially, I come across certain e-commerce platforms. They will take the order, they will hand it over to certain courier agencies. That courier agency guy will not come to your location if you are remotely located. He will ask you, hey, I can't service in your location. You come to my location, pick the item. Ideally, we have placed an item expecting that that will be delivered at my home. Later, I came to know that delivery person, intermediary person is not delivering to my location. Basically, to whom you should claim? The person from whom you ordered, he committed that it will be home delivered. But in between, what is happening? The intermediary person is not delivering to you. So you ensure, if you are starting an e-commerce business, ensure that a proper connection or a proper clear-cut guidelines have been given to the courier agency. If he is agreed to deliver home to home, then only you should contract with him. So these kind of things you should be taken care. And also especially on the return policy, you remember what things you should maintain very clearly. And also on the payment part, mode of payment, what all the payment methods you accept. See, if you see more or less, you would have read in this previous guidelines, a couple of things are interrelated. So these are the things you should be taken care if you are going to get into e-commerce business. Now, from the laws that are governing e-commerce, see, many of the students fear about remembering these laws. I will simply tell you again. I need not explain what is meant by an income tax, what is meant by Companies Act. You will be reading in the length and breadth what each act does and for what purpose. So if you how to remember these, if you got a question, mention all the commercial laws which are governing e-commerce, just visualize the business. Okay. Now we'll see the company is doing business. It would have getting some profits. Then of course, when it is getting profits, it has to pay tax. So Income Tax Act. So that's how you can correlate to the business. So you will be able to easily remember all the commercial laws that are applicable to e-commerce. Now, when you're placing an order on the e-commerce platform, that means indirectly you and the e-commerce vendor are getting into a contract. As per the contract, they have to deliver the items to you. You have to pay the amount to them. Whether it could be prepaid order or a cash on delivery, both the parties are obliged to perform their duties. So Contract Act applies. And also as e-commerces are basically established as a companies, so the Companies Act applies. So what is the Companies Act? Definitely, you know, it controls the operations, your annual filings and all those things. And if you are involved, if that e-commerce is doing the foreign trade, the Development and Regulation Act applies. As the e-commerce companies have a lot of employees who support their operations, the Factories Act applies. And Customs Act, if they are doing any exports out of the country, as we already discussed it, right? You can place an order from Amazon.com. So from the US context, the Amazon.com should be responsible for the Customs Act to comply with the Customs Act as well. So as you are buying and selling items on your platform, basically predominantly you sell the items. So the GST Act in the Indian context we are talking now, Indian Contract Act, as I already told you, Competition Act, you shouldn't involve any unfair will protect you. Again, the Foreign Exchange Management Act, FEMA. If you're doing any foreign transactions and receiving foreign investments or foreign amounts, so you'll also be comply with the FEMA Act. And finally, as you are dealing with the consumers, to protect those consumers, the Consumer Protection Act. So you visualize in real terms so that you'll be able, you need not mug the acts that are applicable. So try to visualize how a flow will happen, what are all the parties, to protect the interest of the parties, what are all the acts applicable in simple terms, so that you'll be able to get this list. Then, so we understand the regular laws that are applicable to e-commerce. Now, there is also a special emphasis on, there are some special laws governing e-commerce. So what is the need of these special laws? See, the way we understand from day one and day two how e-commerce business operates. They are not located physically at your location, and on their platform, multiple people are buying and selling. All the transactions are digitized. There is no physical document or let's have a quick look at it. See, previously, if some transaction was physically happening, maybe the court of law was believing those transactions. But as you're doing online now, it should give the legal recognition to those transactions also. Let's say, if the court says, as you paid the money to this person physically, if you say yes, okay, then only I will consider this as a payment. If you are making payment via online, I won't consider, because I don't know whether it is correct or not. Okay, they can't claim like this. Now the IT Act given legal recognition for electronic transaction. Whether you perform the same transaction physically or electronically, whenever, if I need to consider the transaction authenticity, I still accept the electronic transaction. So that right has been given via Section 4 from Information Technology Act. Electronic storing, we have in Income Tax Act, right? You need to keep your financial documents for a certain number of years for audit or all the stuff, 5 years, 7 years. So if some company is storing all that information in digital format, I'm still accept it. Means I will give the, I will recognize in terms of court of law. Okay. I see students are complaining about video buffering. My technical team is also there parallelly. If there is any issue from our end, they will update you. So just wait for a couple of minutes. Almost or only few students are complaining. So maybe it might be an issue at your end, as the internet speeds might vary from location to location. So this is on the storage of data to provide legal sanctions to transfer funds electronically to and between banks and financial institutions. So in simple terms, as I told you, right, whatever you are doing physical world, if you are doing same thing on electronic and virtual world also, that will be given equal recognition from court of law or legally. And also from the Indian Penal Code or India Evidence Act, certain existing acts require certain amendments. Example, Indian Evidence Act says that if I need to consider that as an evidence, it should be written in paper. Let's say there is a provision like that. Nowadays, if all the businesses are happening digitally, you won't have any physical evidence, right? Example, if you need to consider an invoice, okay? If it is there on a physical paper, then only I will consider it as an invoice. If that is what Indian Evidence Act says. But nowadays, all the businesses are happening e-commerce or electronically via internet. You don't have a physical copy of it. So this, with the help of IT Act, so that has amended those provisions which are there in that existing acts, so that those acts will also should recognize these electronic transactions also legal or valid. So this is how the IT Act helps you. There's section 14 and 15 as well. So access the security procedures applied. Let's say, I think you have some internal controls to be followed to ensure that your data is secured, your transactions is secured. So whatever you are doing now in terms of digitalization, you have taken enough security measures that should be equally recognized as you are complied with the requirements. So that is what section 14 and 15 gives an eligibility to the companies. So the IT Act gives, if I want to summarize all these provisions, whatever the businesses were doing in physical world before the introduction of e-commerce, if you have taken the same measures and controls in in the IT via internet or through networks, all those electronic modes, I will give an equal recognition. That's what the IT Act has given. Now from the Reserve Bank of India Act, so for these companies, let's say they have given a couple of guidelines. Conversion of all credit and debit cards to chip enabled. So it gives more security, and OTP and PIN for all transactions done on point of sale machines using debit or credit cards. Capital adequacy norms for payment wallets like SBI Buddy or Paytm. So a couple of additional provisions has brought in from the RBI as well to safeguard the interest of businesses as well as consumers. So here they have given certain guidelines to be followed by the e-commerce companies on the online payments. So ensure that you accept only chip enabled payments so that the security is taken care, because in chip enabled cards, getting the data access is a bit difficult. That is encrypted. So it's very easy. It's not that easy to hack that information if somebody is sharing that chip enabled card information. Okay. So again, these are very not that difficult to understand. Various laws or acts have been applicable to e-commerce. One is commercial laws, the regular act, Income Tax Act, Companies Act, and some special laws like IT Act and RBI. RBI is there, but it gives some additional provisions for e-commerce businesses. So that's what from the laws perspective. Free, it depends on the examination. If they would have asked any write any special provisions that is applicable to e-commerce business, you have to write it. But it's not much difficult to remember. These are 5-6 things from the Income Tax Act. How many heads, how many provisions you are going to remember. So considering them, it's not that difficult to remember. So now let's see what are the forces behind the e-commerce revolution. So why do you think the e-commerce has gained this much of momentum or a success in these days? So let's quickly read through it. One is proliferation of mobile device. In simple terms, the success of mobile devices. Previously, in few years ago, I can say 1 decade ago, having a mobile phone means only the rich people or affordable people used to have. Nowadays, every common man is having a smartphone. So due to that, the e-commerce businesses are gaining momentum because it become accessible. That's the main thing. So they have given some statistics here. Online traffic is generated, means if you see the traffic per se, 50% of the online traffic is from the mobile devices. So as the mobile device usage and reachability have been increased, that indirectly helped the e-commerce businesses to grow further. Then convergence of mobile telecommunication network and the internet. Previously, when you need to access internet, you need to you need to have a broadband or a landline connection. So you can access internet only from your home or from the internet service providers or internet centers used to be there. But nowadays, every mobile handheld device you can connect it to internet and get things done. So the development of technology like initially 2G, 3G, 4G, now soon we are going to get 5G, higher speeds. Some gigabytes of data can be transmitted over a second. So nobody goes download of data. They can simply access any videos without any buffering. They can perform complex operations without any issues on the mobile data itself. And also with the advent of social networks, as you can see, like this Facebook and Twitter and all those stuff, they help the awareness and given a lot of reach to the masses so that the product selling can happen on those platforms as well. All these social media platforms earns a lot of money with this product advertisings. So promotion of product on social media platforms. And this biometrics, again, from the security point of view. See, we were talking about a couple of risks in e-commerce, right? So now many companies are coming up with 2-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication. Nowadays, I can see, let's say for my WhatsApp, I have given my thumbprint as a login. Like nobody can replicate it unless otherwise I put my hand on it. Nobody can access my WhatsApp. So that gives a confidence for me. Yes, I can use this WhatsApp services. Similarly, for any businesses, a lot of apps nowadays, even for a lot of banking apps, have this scan option. So only with the thumbprint, you can open that app. So it's very difficult for anybody to hack it, right? If you have that kind of mechanism. And also the artificial intelligence. So you'll be reading about under emerging technologies in the following day. So you understand how these latest technologies are helping the e-commerce businesses to multifold their activities. See, offers personalized the interactive buying experiences. Example, when you log into Amazon or any e-commerce platform, so based on your previous purchase history, automatically they customize the wall. The moment you log into your account, it will show based on your purchase history. You previously purchased one item, the other items which are related to that item, they keep displaying, so that it will make you a kind of attractive. So tempting. Okay, I bought this. Maybe this product also will be helpful to me. So they can curate that advertisements, all those chatbots and personalized assistants. So don't worry, on artificial intelligence, we'll have a separate topic, but just understand using these technologies, all these things help the e-commerce businesses to reach to the current stage or to grow. You remember, we're talking about from the numbers as well, 6 times from the business point of view, it is going to increase in next couple of years. So that kind of volume is possible only with these kind of technologies or inputs. Predictive analysis on the machine learning. I think we talked about exploratory data analysis, confirmatory data analysis, different types of data analytics when we're talking about in chapter number 2. Predictive analysis is one of the analysis. So using the technology, they predicts what you can buy, what you might gonna buy. So accordingly, they will give the offers, promotions, so that you can be choosy. Basically, if the advertisements are for the products which you're interested in, you are more interested to check. If the advertisement is not, means if that product is not at all you are interested in, then you don't even see that advertisement, right? So how they can know that this is your interest? So they will predict it. Okay, you purchased all electronic related items, so you might be more interested in electronics. So they keep advertising you on the electronic products. Support of IT governing laws. As I said, previously, a lot of frauds used to happen in initial days because there is no clear-cut legal protection for any kind of issues happening on digital mode. Now, as we have seen some special laws, especially on the Information Technology Act, how many provisions have given protection to the IT, the transaction happens on digital world. So this also promotes the advent of the e-commerce businesses. So these are the various factors that helped the e-commerce revolution. This okay. It's just, let's quickly go on to the most important topic, digital payments. I know we are close to 8:25 now. It'll take a couple of time. Maybe for the rest of the digital payments, we can continue from tomorrow. Anyway, that's what the plan. So any doubts, students, so far? Okay, so let's go to the digital payments. Okay, so this again is, I can say, how your generation is much versed with the e-commerce. Similarly, I need not explain the digital payments or the importance of digital payments, but maybe certain technical points we can discuss as part of the syllabus. So definitely from every day you will be using these payment methodologies to transact any kind of payments or receipts. So basically, digital payment is a way of payment which is made through digital modes. So it's a simple and a straightforward definition here. Okay, anything if you are doing electronically that means that payment via electronic mode, it's called digital payments. Students, do you think can you tell me previously, like if you go in a sequence wise, how we usually use it to make payment? In age old days, if you go back some generations, the first mode of payment is barter system. Means where whatever the product you have, you give it to that other person and take the product what the other person has. It's an exchange of products. It's a barter system. Then the invent of fiat currency came. Fiat currency means nothing but the physical currency, whatever we have been using so far. So with this currency, you give that fiat currency this digitization. Like you have this electronic mode of payments using debit card and then followed by credit card and then followed by internet payments, right? This is traditional way of payments. Now the new set of digital payments are the ones we are going to talk about, this UPI, mobile wallets, all the stuff. Anyway, we have detailed topics to discuss. So this is the progressive way or a progress chart for the payments that have been transitioned. So from barter system to the electronic mode. Anyway, the next advancement we're talking about is cryptocurrencies. Okay, this is the latest hot topic on nowadays. Cryptocurrencies or digital currency. Even in India, the RBI is going to bring one digital currency that will maybe, if not this year, maybe by next year, they are planning to launch to compete with the cryptocurrencies. So this is how the transmission of currencies have been done over a period of time. So let's go back to the definition. So here, digital payment is a way of payment which is made through digital modes. So payer and payee, they both use digital modes to send and receive money. So let's say on internet banking, if you're transferring funds from one person to another, you log into the internet banking, the other person can also check on internet banking whether the funds have been received or not. And this is also called electronic payment. No hard cash is involved and transactions are completed online, instantaneously and convenient way to make payments. So we all know that these are all the advantages and how a digital payment have been done. Okay. Now let's go on to the different types of digital payments. Mukta, proliferation of mobile means the like excessive usage or excessive reachability. Nowadays, everybody have a mobile phone. If everybody have, that means if something can be reached via mobile, it reaches to masses, right? Multiple people. So the success of mobile phone industry helped the e-commerce businesses because everybody is having a mobile phone, access to the internet at a very low cost. So businesses can go online. So it can reach by multiple people. USSD, we will come back to that. We have gone to that far. Just wait for a minute. Yeah. As Shreya mentioned, initially, it's a barter system from then fiat currency. They call it as a fiat currency, the physical currency, cash or coins, and then the digital modes. Now the focus is on the digital modes. So initially, we'll be talking about cards. So you all know what is meant by credit card. So you don't have a balance with the bank, but bank will give you some loan, kind of loan, as a interest-free loan with the help of card based on your income generation capability. So they might ask you all your income proof, so that based on that, they will give you certain limit on the card. Based on that card limit, you can use it. Let's say they have given you a 1 lakh limit. Means you're not having that amount in your bank. Okay. Bank has given a card, a debit card, similar to a debit card, looks like a debit card. It has given a 1 lakh limit. You can use for all your payments using this credit card. After 50 days or 45 days, you will get a statement. Okay, these are all the transactions you use this credit card. You please make a payment to the bank. So you will get an interest-free credit for 45 or 50 days till that limit, and you have to make repayments. So it's about credit card. Whereas debit card, it has given for your savings bank account. That means your funds are already there with the bank. You can utilize the debit card till the extent of funds with your savings bank. Smart card means, how many of you know these kind of gift cards? Let's say if you want to gift to somebody, be it in your employees or your friends and relatives, you need not give a hard cash to them. Okay. There is another option, giving this gift card. This gift card is nothing but, again, it looks like the Visa or a MasterCard, which is offered by them only basically. You can load the balance to that card, and that can be given as a gift to any person. So that person can use that card anywhere. It could be for shopping, online payment, anywhere they can use it. So this is what the smart card. Examples, that Visa gift cards. Maybe after this session, you can check online. There are a lot of companies offers these gift cards. There is another category of gift cards given by the shopping malls. Example, if you go to Shoppers Stop or you go to Home Center, there also you can get a gift cards. Let's say one of your friend got married. You want to gift some item which can be useful for their home, but you might bought a certain item which they already have, or they might have a different plan or a different brand in mind which they want to buy. So instead of putting effort in buying that specific item and having a doubt whether they like it or not, let's say I went to Home Center, I paid the money, I got their Home Center gift card. I'll give that gift card to my friend on the occasion of marriage. So post that, they can visit the Home Center whatever item they like, they can purchase using this gift card. So these are all the various usage of these gift cards. So this is also one of the, indirectly you are giving a payment or cash to them, right? But they have given a flexibility to buy from a particular brand. So another mode of thing is internet banking. So we all know using internet, you can log into the internet banking, check the balances, add the beneficiaries, transfer funds, receive funds, download the statement, even file your income tax related compliances. So lot of utility payments, everything you can do internet banking. So as these are traditional methods and we all use it to this, I don't think it requires any further explanation to understand these types of modes. Now quickly go on to the newer methods of digital payments, which is more important and more requires discussion here. Yeah, let's go through this. Maybe I'll take some 10-15 minutes extra. So what are all the methods we can cover? We can cover. The first one is unified payments interface. Okay. I would like to tell you, I got an advice from the Board of Studies as well. Some of the students were asking the difference between UPI and mobile apps. I will tell you how this works. See, previously, you need to understand the history of this progression, like how we have seen from barter system to cryptocurrencies. Within this digital mode also, how it has been progressed. So we all know in internet banking, when you log in, you have NEFT, National Electronic Fund Transfer, and RTGS. Anybody have doubt on this, NEFT or RTGS? Or if you know what is meant by NEFT or when you use NEFT or RTGS? Students, can you please tell me when you use NEFT and when you use RTGS? Yes, Gehani Hariram, Sodaxo card is also one type of, but basically they don't call it as a gift card. Sodaxo card is basically given by companies to their employees to use within their compound for any kind of references what each account holder has. So there are a lot of history goes into it. So these methodologies have certain limitations for the fund transfer. So they brought IMPS, immediate payment service. So how this technology works, you need to understand. With the help of mobile number linked to your bank account, the funds have been transferred to the another person who is also have the mobile number linked to the banking account, his bank account. So both the sender and receiver's mobile numbers should be linked to their bank accounts to use this IMPS technology. So using this technology, funds can be transferred immediately. See, even nowadays, if you want to transfer funds via NEFT or RTGS, example, let's say you have ICICI bank account and your friend has a HDFC bank account, adding the third party, it will take time and they will have certain time limitations. Only after 24 hours, you can transfer funds. All these limitations applicable on NEFT. But on IMPS mode, you can transfer funds instantaneously, 24/7 you can transfer. And there is a limit of, I think, maximum 1 lakh per day you can transfer via IMPS. Certain limits will be there, but it is available every time, means 24/7 by 365. And comparatively, NEFT and RTGS, the funds will move from your account to your friend's account much faster. So they brought this IMPS technologies. But to use this IMPS technology, you need to log in via internet banking only. Online banking only, you can use this IMPS. So then there are many people who doesn't log into the means that internet banking portal for various reasons. So of course, always we evolve, right? So how we evolve from traditional methods to digital payments, even in digital payments also, we keep evolving it. So on IMPS, the next generation of IMPS, the built UPI, Unified Payments Interface. It's a technology. Okay. Using this technology, lot of apps are built. Whatever the apps you are seeing here, Phone Pay, Google Pay, Amazon Pay, or Beam, all these are client apps. They are known as client apps, which are built on this UPI technology, Unified Payments Interface. So using this technology, it become much easier now. with the help of a app, you can transfer funds to the recipient much faster, much convenient, and there are no transaction charges also. In age old days, if you, even though this online banking, that NEFT and RTGS, I still remember, if I'm transferring to another bank, there used to be certain percentage as a transaction charges. All those things are eliminated, and it's very easy to transfer funds using these UPI apps. So we are coming back to this now. A couple of topics we discussed here. We discussed what is meant by IMPS, the immediate payment service. You will be logging into internet banking and transfer funds via mobile number. Means on the back end, it goes via mobile number to mobile number. And on top of it, they built the UPI apps, Unified Payment Interface apps. So using these apps, you can transfer the funds. But how? Then you need a client app. These are called client apps. So using these apps, you have to create, basically, you have to create a UPI ID. This is also called virtual private address, VPA. See how in real world you have a bank account number. If you need to transfer funds from one bank account to another bank account, you need to know the bank account number, the branch IFSC code, all this information, right? Similarly, on UPI platform, if you want to transfer funds from one app, one person to another, you need to have an UPI ID or a virtual private address and unique identifier which identifies you or your account indirectly. Okay, with that help, funds can be transferred from one UPI app to another app. Examples of UPI apps, all these Phone Pay or a Google Pay, these are all different examples of UPI apps. I hope you understand what is meant by UPI app and IMPS. Any doubts here, students, so far? Hitesh, mobile banking also has IMPS. Yes, but indirectly in both the cases, it just interface has changed. Whether you're logging from a system or a desktop or from a mobile, in both the cases, you're logging into the bank portal. Okay, let's say if you have an ICICI bank account, you will be logging into ICICI bank portal. Either that can be through your system or through a mobile. But yes, as you said, it IMPS has in both mobile banking as well as internet banking. Hiral, I'll come back to that, the difference between UPI and mobile apps. Just confirm me, you understood what is meant by UPI apps and IMPS. Okay, now go on to the mobile apps. See, mobile apps is actually an extension of this UPI apps. Basically, I don't see much difference in terms of the functionality. Both are same, but they are given more specific definition of mobile apps. Example, they have taken this Beam app, but again, the Beam app works on UPI only. Okay, and especially if you're talking about IMPS, when you're transferring funds, you have IFSC code, or you can use MMID, mobile money identifier. So using these things, the IMPS works. So as I said, first understand the diagram, how the architecture has built. IMPS is the base technology on which the UPI technology has been built. On UPI, you will have all these UPI apps. So they also called mobile apps. This is what I can say. Okay. Functionality wise, the UPI apps are mobile apps, both are same. Now, from the mobile wallets perspective, mobile wallets is nothing but Paytm initially when they come up into the market. So you have to recharge the amount to that wallet. From that wallet, you can transfer funds or you can make all utility payments. So post successful of the Paytm wallet, you got so many MobiKwik, free recharge, all these things come into picture. So mobile wallet is very simple. It doesn't have any bank account linked. Basically, you are adding certain money, money or loading certain money to that wallet. And from that wallet, you are making payments like Amazon Pay, Paytm, free recharge, MobiKwik, all these things. You have to first load the money. But from where you can load, again, using your internet banking or using UPI apps, you load the money to these wallets. And then funds get added. From there, you can use for all your payments. That's what mobile wallets. Kaveri, on the IMPS part, as I told you, it's a immediate payment settlement system. If you understand how the NEFT and RTGS were working, there are certain limitations in those methodologies. So all these IMPS and UPI is developed by a government organization called NPCI, National Payments Corporation of India. So they are the backbone for these products. So they brought a new technology called IMPS. In simple terms, in the backend, the funds are transferred using the mobile numbers. Okay, there is a big architecture behind it, but I'm not discussing that architecture, how really it happens. But here the context is you understand how this methodology works. That's it, not from the architecture point of view. Yeah, Surabhi, as you said, banks also have their own apps. That is nothing but mobile banking. So that's what they covered under mobile banking. Okay, so I hope you're all able to follow so far. The next thing is Aadhaar enabled USSD cryptocurrency e-rupee. As we already close to 8:50 now, I would like to take a pause here. We can continue tomorrow and means in the next session. And also if you have any doubts on these new methods of digital payments, we can continue our discussion on day 3. So day 3, predominantly we are going to talk about the emerging technologies. Students, day 3 and day 4 topics are much important. Lot of examination questions came on those, and especially those definitely requires good amount of discussion. So don't miss those classes. So feel free to ask any doubts. Even on this, if you have any doubts, one, as I told you in the starting of the class, if you have any doubts, if I'm not able to answer due to the time limitation, because I see a lot of queries on the chat box, so feel free to drop to easinter@ica.in. And for day 3, we can continue the digital payments discussion. I think these are all the leftover topics on this. Yeah, that's it. So we will continue our leftover digital payment because those are a bit new. Because UPI app, you guys might be using left and right on every day. So you can easily correlate. Mobile banking, that is nothing but the specific bank app. If ICICI have iMobile, similarly HDFC also have their own banking app, because nowadays nobody goes to a browser, open the website and then log into their username and password. So every bank brought their own app. That's nothing but the mobile banking through which you can operate your transactions. Whatever you can do on internet banking, you can do the same on mobile banking. So UPI, IMPS is a technology where the funds are transferred using mobile number link, but I'm not discussing on the architecture part, but just understand the technology. It's a different technology which gives some additional benefits. On this IMPS technology, the UPI technology has been built, where you have a couple of UPI apps. Whatever you are currently seeing, those are all comes under the category of UPI apps. So you have a different, the remaining one is Aadhaar enabled payment system, USSD, cryptocurrency, e-rupee. So these are the couple of digital payments. These are very interesting to understand the different kinds of digital means the payment methods. Okay, we will continue this and continue with the day 3 topics on the day 3. So feel free to drop all your questions to this easinter@ica.in, and also feel free to share your feedback for the sessions. Thank you so much, students. If you have any questions different between BHIM and UPI, I told you, right? See, UPI is a technology. If I talk in this, email is a technology. You can have Gmail, you can have Yahoo, you can have Hotmail. These are the different products or different service providers. Similarly, UPI is an app. BHIM is one of the, UPI is a technology. BHIM is one of the app which is used by, means which uses that UPI technology to transfer funds. That's it. Okay. Similar to BHIM, you have this all other payment apps, PhonePe, Google Pay. These are all different UPI apps. Any other doubts, students, or else we will be good to wind up for today? Yeah. So let's continue for day 3. Thank you so much, students. Have a wonderful day ahead. Yes, Ramji.